I'm Theron, Ramacharaka. Just a couple days ago, I uploaded a video here about celebrating the inner light, something like that. The inner sun, whatever. I deleted it now because I thought I need to address this affair, the subject, a little bit differently. In that video, I mentioned that all beings have an inner light. Like, let's say the earth as a being, as a living being, might just have its own inner light. I'm not talking about what we commonly call the core of Earth, or the outer core. I'm talking about, there's been some evidence that the Earth is a hollow being and has its own inner sun. Okay. Whether or not that's true, it doesn't matter. In saying that, I was getting to the point, which I did in the video, that we all have our own inner light, also known as the spark of the divine, whatever. Various different names for it. And in New Age ideology, we find a lot of talk about that. And we find it through history, in mysticism, esotericism, the esoteric side of religions. It's not any new concept, but it's very popularized in New Age religion, which may have its more of a dark side than a bright side. Anyway, in the video, well, it was 4th of July, on the day that I initially made it back in, I guess, 2015, and it was 4th of July, and I live in the United States, so that's our Independence Day. And I mentioned that I was going to participate in an activity with my brother later that day, and it was going to be at a local racetrack, automobile racetrack, sprint car racetrack, and the race there that evening was going to be a special event, which they have at that track every year in celebration of the 4th of July, Independence Day. And I mentioned that I wasn't going there to celebrate Independence Day. I mentioned all sorts of reasons for that. But I said I was going there to celebrate our inner light. Well, okay, that having been said, by way of introduction or preface, I also had mentioned in the video that this inner light of ours is inextinguishable. That it's everlasting. Okay. World affairs and the human condition has devolved since then, and my awareness of the condition has evolved on the other hand. So, I am now in the remake of this whole idea here. I'm going to say to you that I might have been wrong, and some other people may be wrong, including William Walker Atkinson, of whom two pen names of his form the name that I use here. My channel name, Theron Ramacharaka. This channel involves a lot of his thinking, the new thought, thinking of the early 20th century. My channel name has the subtitle, Older World, Newer Thought. Well, here's some newer thought. And William Walker Atkinson did, in fact, hint at this that I'm going to tell you now, but he didn't emphasize it much. I only have ever found one sentence written by him that addresses this. Maybe one sentence, or whether it was a single proposition. Maybe he expanded on it slightly. So let's say maybe there was at most a 3 or 4 sentence paragraph about it. And I believe that was called in the book, using his pen name Swami Panchadasi, in his book called The Astral World, which I will post here. I have narrated the entire book. I just haven't uploaded it yet. All right. Here it is, folks. Finally. It may just be the case, see, that this inner light, this true self, this spark of the divine, this core of our being, is not inextinguishable. It is extinguishable. Now let me address this in 2 ways. First, let me give you the simpler one first. I don't know a better term here. The powers that be, parasitic, predatory entities, dark forces, whatever you want to call it, are using methods, techniques. They've been in this program of action for a long, long time with respect to humanity, feeding on our soul energy, keeping our consciousness enslaved and in low vibrational states, misdirecting us. All right. History is riddled with information about this too. Many different names have been used for it. Many different ways of approaching it. It shows up all over the place. It's not a new idea either. It's not a new thing. Well, it's just definitely not any new thing. But it's becoming more apparent. It's manifesting more greatly. And in my opinion right now, humanity as we know it is on the brink of extinction. Transhumanism points in that direction. Transhumanism has been nicknamed by at least one person Satanism or the brain chip. Transhumanism. My immediate point is that I think nothing would please these influences that would devolve us, please them more than for our inner light to be thoroughly extinguished, so that we cannot then, in consequence, rise above their influence and pull away from our meetings of their needs for survival, which is their needs are parasitic and predatory upon us. So it's like it's us or them. And by extinguishing that so-called inner light of ours, well, that would do it. But then again, why extinguish it? Because it's relevant to this energy they need from us, in a sense. Soul energy, okay. But I think we can still provide them with what they need without that. They feed on our lowest emotional states and our behaviors that come from them or that correspond with those states, and our thinking that corresponds with them. I'm not sure how to work out the mechanics of that, but I'm proposing here that the idea that our inner light thing is eternal or inextinguishable may not be true. Maybe it is inherently inextinguishable, if not utterly turned backwards on itself, or reversed in polarity, or what have you. Point number 2, or support number 2 for my thesis here. Excuse me again. I believe that it may be the case that until we establish true selfhood, that is, first of all, recognize that there is such a thing as a true self, a core of our being, a core I am, and then realize it, and then proceed to manifest it. Until we establish that, then we are not really individuals in the true sense. And that true self, that spark of the divine, that inner light, stays in a potential state, not an actual state. We have to actualize it. Hence the old term self-actualization, not as used by modern contemporary psychologists. That, I believe, may smack of something that has to do with the false ego. It might. Depends on exactly who's using the term. But I'm talking about in a deeper sense, more esoteric sense. If it remains in a potential state until we establish our true selfhood, I believe it's extinguishable. It may be the case, my proposition here is that once that line is crossed, though, from potential to actual, then it may be inextinguishable by other influences. But that, you see, this is up to us. Individually, to do. And it becomes a collective thing as well. I mean, down at that level of each of us, we're all connected. So, we have a duty. If you see my other video on duty, a recent upload, then you'll recognize this little bit of talk right here. It is our duty to do this individually. And that duty blends right in with our duty to humanity as a whole, to the planet, to all the universe, which is trying to evolve. So celebrate our inner light. It may be on its way out, folks. It's up to us, okay? But I suggest that if I'm correct to any degree about any of this right here in this video, that if you want to celebrate something like that, well, it is worth celebrating, because as I pointed out in the video, which is just here for kind of like entertainment purposes, it has something to do with, what the heck was it called? Oh, yeah. If humanity self-destructs, who will play the bugle? You know that bugle thing called taps when somebody dies? Who will play taps for the human species, for humanity? If it self-destructs, there will be no taps. The light would be completely out. Humanity would be gone. But look, all right, before, we cannot celebrate anything, and there's nothing to celebrate with respect to what I'm talking about here. Maybe, you don't know. That kind of makes it worth celebrating while it's still here, because it's becoming an endangered thing. All right. Number two, more importantly, is to do what you can to keep it lit. To turn it into an actual thing, all right? Actualize it. That might just put us in a position for it to be untouchable then. I'm proposing that until then, it is touchable, and it is extinguishable. And if we devolve far enough, if through that devolvement we don't self-destruct, perhaps the universe will destroy us eventually, just annihilate us, because we've gone way too far against the grain. So celebrate if you will, while you can, and while there's something to celebrate. But moreover, get into action to do something. It's your duty. Establish true selfhood. The tools are here, and if they're not here today, they will be in the future. I will upload them, but this is a work in progress here. This channel is brand new at this point. So, keep checking back. But for God's sake, whatever. For your own sake. For our sake. Don't just click on these videos and look at them and then say, oh, I got it. Don't treat this like some weekend seminar you paid for, some new age seminar, and you listen to some guru talk about ascension into the fourth dimension, dimension ascension, his mention of dimension ascension, whatever. And then come home and feel all glittery and blizzed out because you did some ascension, alternate nostril breathing technique for about an hour or whatever. And then figure, oh, I'm ascending. I'm I'm a spirit. I'm on a spiritual path now. Oh, that's just false ego jabber. Do the work. Don't pretend. And don't talk yourself into believing that you're doing it just because you listened to it or you thought about it. Or you were with other people who look totally blissed out. Because they've talked themselves into believing the same rubbish. Self-deception. Again. Well, don't deceive yourself about this, folks. This is as real as it gets. This is your universal duty. You want to know what you're here to do? This is it. I'm Theron Ramacharaka.